unfortunately, and feel free to rein me in, but I'll just say this really briefly. In the U.S., we, as a society, seem to have arrived at a place where we believe it's empowering and helpful to other people to give them a pat on the back and a good job, even if they get 17th place. And you do not make people better by doing that. You are negatively reinforcing bad. You're positively reinforcing bad habits. And I was fortunate to have a handful of people in my life who, including my parents, of course, who cared enough, gave enough of a damn to be a hard ass and to say, no, I'm not going to accept that because you can do better. And I know you can do better, so I'm going to help you / force you to be better.
Well, yeah, because what happens is, and I relate to this, you don't have kids yet, but I have 2 kids, right? Mm-hmm. So you think about this stuff a lot as you have them. And if you're observant, and as writers, we end up being observant, whether we want to or not. There's a part of the way that we, even when we're fully engaged, there's a little part of us that's observant.
Sure.
And I've thought a lot about the participation trophy. Mm-hmm. I've really thought a lot about this. And I know where it came, having being a kid of the 70s, I understand where it came from. And actually, like many ideas, it came from a very noble and good place. If you think about the legacy of the 50s, mm-hmm. the legacy of post-war, like, achievement at all costs, drill sergeant type coaches, kids who were outcasts, who weren't just told they're playing badly, you have to perform better, but who were told they were losers and weak and would never amount to anything, right? Mm-hmm. Because the second half of what happened in the 70s and 80s, the kind of personal improvement talk, the sort of wider acceptance of the validity of some kind of psychological practice being useful, the sort of actually considering the effect of the ways we talk to kids, which wasn't even written about pre-World War II, right? Mm-hmm. And so, Janis Ian writing songs like it's at 17 about not being picked for the basketball team and feeling like an ugly loser. Mm-hmm. And you can see why then people thought, what they should have done, the way to remediate that is, let's speak to these kids who don't win differently. Mm-hmm. Let's give them a different message about not winning. But instead it became, let's make them all winners. And the problem with that, I agree with you, Tim, is I would watch with my kids early on. They knew it was a joke when they would get a participation trophy.
Right.
They hated it.
Yeah.
And you would watch the parents who encouraged it, and you would see something in these kids die.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're telling them, we don't think you can ever be good enough to win. Mm-hmm. And now for me, I'm a liberal. So, and I really believe in that there has to be a way to help people make the playing field even. But as a culture, I agree, we've just taken it too far. And look, what you do in your work is try to tell people, I think, here are ways in which you can even the playing field.
Yeah, or the way I might put it is, here's a way you can get extraordinary results with mediocre raw materials. And I think people underestimate that. And the way, in my mind, to empower people is, like you said, with your kids who know on some level that this participation trophy is a joke and it sort of devalues the entire thing. If you sit down, I'll give you an example, and this might be a bit of a harsh example for some people, but I've watched tens of thousands of people attempt various diets and even helped with some research with startups and UC Berkeley with doing randomized studies. Like, I've seen a ton of data about what works and what doesn't, what persists and what doesn't in diet. And at the end of the day, if you sit down with someone who is morbidly obese, knows there's a problem, and you tell them, you know what, it's okay. It's not your fault. None of this is your fault because of society this and genetics that. On some level, they know that's bull. And they don't need someone to enable the rationalization of their condition by saying that type of thing. And when I've said to people, for instance, through the books, which I do in the 4-Hour Body, because I've been a big boy before, I'm 170 now, but I've been 220. I mean, not, morbidly obese, pre-diabetic, but I like peanut butter sandwiches and pizza and ice cream and all that stuff. when I sit down with someone, I'm like, look, okay, cool, like, I can help you. This is not a mystery. Like, biochemistry can be hacked, and there are very basic tools. If you want to lose 20 pounds in a month or lose 200 pounds in total, I can show you exactly how to do that, and it's replicable. This has been done by thousands of people. But first, like, you are fat. It's a consequence of certain micro behaviors, and we have to fix those micro behaviors. And they're like, cool, I got it. Right? It's like you don't have to be worried about their head exploding and their ego shattering because I say, look, you're fat. Like, let's just get on the same page first. It's not because you're big boned. It's not because of, society's pressures. Like, you eat M&Ms before you go to bed. You're fat. So, like, let's fix it.
One of the great ways you can build rapport with somebody is by, when they know that you have their best interests at heart, you can being honest is a really powerful tool. I remember...
if you care. If it's clear that you care.
I mean, as a director, I think a lot about how to talk to actors, and I think in the beginning... And every actor is different, and you do think about each person psychologically. Yeah. I mean, if you're doing this well, like Steve Nash talks about being a point guard and how you really look at each player. But I've talked to various actors who've worked with Woody Allen, and forgetting Woody Allen's personal life for a minute, Woody Allen as a director is one of the greats who ever lived. And Woody Allen just goes up to them after a take. Sometimes he goes, that was terrible. It's, hard to imagine being an actor on the receiving end of that. But in a way, it's saying, look, we're in it together. I picked you to do the movie. We have to solve this. We have to solve this this problem together. Right. So that makes total sense to me. But I want to return, because you
and I look for the same thing with my writing. By the way, when I ask friends who are good writers for feedback, the biggest disservice they could give me is by saying, "Oh yeah, no, this is really great. This is nice. Like, good luck." But they secretly think that paragraphs 6, 14, and 12 are pieces of shit. I need to hear that.
I cannot tell you how important what you just said is in any area of professional development. And especially writer. I have people tweeting me all day about this, asking me this question all day long. And it's like, because I'll say to people, don't get feedback from people who you know are going to be destructive. It's like the Julia Cameron thing. If you know there are people who are going to hate it because some part of them is competitive with you, don't show it to them, right? But once you decide, I'm in the zone of comfort and safety, I need feedback from this person. You want the most limited positive feedback possible. This can work. Here's why this can work. Here are the problems. I only want, when I send something to a professional, I want them to rip me to shreds. The work, I know it's not me they're ripping to shreds. It's the work. They're giving me their time. And that's essential.
Well, it's like, a good CEO... I mean, many have said this in different words, but one of the CEOs I work with said, I don't want to hear about all the good stuff. He's like, tell me about the bad stuff, because the good stuff will just take care of itself.
But I'm interested in how you...